Hey guys, welcome back to Dicentra. Last time in Dicentra, we realized that we were a little wolf cub, and we made it inside of this haunted mansion, and met a quirky ghost girl. So, let's see where we were at. Let me click history real quick. It's been a little while. Had some crazy stuff going on in my life, so I needed to take a hot break. That's why this upload took so long. You think people come from the dead? Okay. Let us continue. I wince at the bites. The roses are extra hungry today. After not feeding them for a while, their petals have bleached to a stark white. I watch as my blood saturates the colorless flowers, then narrow my eyes when I spot a parasitic fungi at the base of the bush. Wait, so we're playing as her now? Ooh, part of the bush is already starting to wither because of it. I reach down and tear it out harshly. Dirt sprays my gown and I crush the fungi in my fist. An sprout in its place. Seeing such a blight this close to the rose bush makes a bolt of anger rise in me. Seeing it makes me want to destroy it. I walk to a different section of the greenhouse and throw it right next to the corpse of a fungi's latest victim. Fungi's latest victim. My heart clenches at the sight. Its eyes are still open. I press my fingers down on the lids of the dead wolf, but it's too late. The terror on its face is already cemented in time. What? My fingers curl and my nails stab into my palm, making the bite sting. Return to the rosebush and continue feeding them. Wait a second. What are we saying here? So these funguses are killing things? She said, of a dead wolf. She didn't say pup, did she? She's not talking about us, right? No, she's not. Okay, so maybe this is just a different one, or maybe even the Basil's mother. And this is so the thunder is going on right now, so the storm is happening. So I guess we're just getting her point of view from the side. Okay. Thunder and lightning thrash above me. Will it lure another pitiful soul tonight? I hear a door slam and I flinch. Okay, yeah. So yeah, Basil's coming in now, crushing a bulb in my hand. My ears listen intently, searching for lingering traces of his presence. When I find none, I take a deep breath and finally let myself relax. I tear the bulb from its stem, and my hands fall to my sides. The sound of the rain is so clear now as I close my eyes to let it wash out everything else. I relish in its violence against the roof of the greenhouse and tremble under the crisp cracks of thunder. Pass the time, now that it is mine again, I whisper something my mother taught me under my breath. Then I hear a whimper come from behind me. Chapter 2. Sun. Death returns. I look up from my view of worn book spines and see Dove. Sorry guys, I don't have a different voice for Dove. I can't do a girl's voice. I'm not a great voice actor, so. She sits in a creaky wooden chair with her knees drawn up beneath her chin. She brushes pale fingers across the rough paper of a large tome sitting open on the desk in front of her. The desk looks like it's made of dark wood, with deep grooves and jagged swirls that have been carved by something sharp. It sits tucked away in the back of a small library. The large bookshelves loom around us like trees in a dark forest. The narrow, arched window above the desk and dripping candles are the only thing that light up this dark and decrepit space. I didn't know the mansion had such an intimidating space like this until we had wandered in earlier. Today's itinerary did not include any of Dove's peculiar chores. Instead, she spent the time wandering around the manor with a notebook and a stick of charcoal. I follow her as she roams aimlessly through the halls, weaving in and out of different. As she continues wandering, body and mind seemingly detached, I carefully inspect every inch of the manor, desperate for a sign that proves this house can be cracked open, allowing me to finally return home. At some point, she stops wandering to sit and curl up at the foot of a decorative stone bust. When I look past her darkly smudged hands, I catch glimpses of pages portraying the same bust over. I don't think it's possible for her to draw that quickly, or in such a short amount of time. I wonder if she has her subject memorized by now. considering how familiar she is with it. Dove seems to be drawn to art. Her sketchbook joins her throughout all of her tiny efforts to kill time in this house that she cannot leave. I begin to think that the professional paintings lining the hallway walls have some influence on the creative side of her. Perhaps she's inspired by someone close to her. Maybe she's just intensely curious. I do wonder, if only she had a gaming setup, what happened to her family for her to end up in such a bizarre state? My thoughts trace back to my arrival at the mansion. There's someone who has yet to reappear, and I strongly hope that I'm gone before he makes his appearance again. Oh yeah, the guy with the hat. Sick design though. Dove surprises me when she walks into a new room during our walk. I cautiously follow her in, and the room reveals itself to be a library full of grit and darkness. I can see dust particles floating silently in the small beam of light that filters into the room. It tickles my nose and makes me sneeze, throwing me forward into a roll until I land on my back, the view of the spiderweb infested ceiling. Dove pays no attention to my fumble and carries on to the back of the room as he reaches a stack of books. I shake my head to recover, ears flopping against my skull, and follow her to the rest of the hallway. As I delve further into the room, I quietly observe the floor-to-ceiling rows of bookshelves. Yeah, it's actually wonderful in here. God, I would love to have a big place like this to myself. Just read all the time. All of them seem to vary in width and are arranged in a pattern that seems maze-like. Books stand in tall piles and scattered around the floor like they've been thrown around carelessly. My ear gives a small twitch at the sound of one hitting the floor, and I turn my gaze to Dove. She silently slips into a chair with a book in hand. I see her focusing intensely on reading after settling into the desk, to the floor. Today's humidity has followed me like a blanket I can't push off. So thick it feels like I keep walking into a wall of heat. Ugh, that must be miserable. I know how you feel, buddy. Dove doesn't seem as bothered by it, but she's not the one covered in fur. I start panting loud enough to draw Dove's attention away from the book. She glances over and wrinkles her brow at me. What's wrong with you? I tilt my head in confusion. Her eyes rake over me inquisitively, then they brighten. She hops out of her chair. I start to stand so I can follow her, but she's already speeding out of the room. Stay here. My ears flatten anxiously. I slide back down to the floor. It's too hot to move anyways, I guess. Dove soon returns carrying something in her hands. I go on edge. Please don't have raw meat again. My body tenses when she sets a bowl in front of me, and I immediately relax again. Oh, water. I give Dove a quick side-eye. Her attention is already settling back into her book. After drinking a belly full of water, I plop down on my side, feeling much more refreshed. Boy. I blink blearily? I blink blearily after a noise disturbs my brief midday nap. Did Dove just say something? I flinch and tilt my gaze up after Dove slams the cover of her book shut. She lets out a large sigh, throws her arms straight out over the desk until her head bowed between them. She then turns her head towards me. Have you ever seen a witch? My ears perk up. Why did she ask that? Dove is clearly not a witch herself, as far as I've been able to tell at least. I can't imagine what kind of witch would want to spend their time meticulously drawing the same thing over and over again. Dove feels within my reach. No witch can make me feel that way. However, the possibility for her to have any relation to a witch is increasingly tangible. Only magic can explain the things this mansion is brimming. Can't find comfort in a place like this, but avoiding a run-in with a witch has been a blessing considering the obvious traces of one. If only I could ask Dove for answers. The more I learn about this place, the more questions I have. It's so frustrating not being able to speak. I startle from the sound of a book dropping right in front of me. The book Dove had been leafing through now sits before me, open to a random section. Can't help but let my gaze flicker down to it. My eyes widen as I take in the contents of the page before me. Strange symbols and cursive writing fill every inch of the old parchment. I stand and draw closer to see better. Curious thing, aren't you? Look up. See Dove facing me in her chair, observing me with her head resting in her palm. I freeze under her stare, my eyes dart to the book again. You know that has a 100% mortality rate with cats. I tip my nose up at her. I think I'm not a cat. Dove narrows her eyes. The corner of her lip twitches. She unravels her curled limbs and stands from her seat. Here, she drags her bare feet across the floor until she reaches the open book, kneeling down and flattening her palms over its pages. Well, I suppose there is more to the cat's story than people think. You can only catch a quick glimpse of the rough circle carved into the hard leather of the cover before Dove grabs it and flips it closed. She then opens it again to the first few pages with indelicate hands. Read the words at the top of the page. Death returns. Dove traces her fingers over the words. Satisfaction brings it back. I feel my tail wagging at the base of my spine as I look back up to Dove. Would you like to learn about magic? Maho. It's not just something anyone can do. My yellow eyes meet her blue ones. Magic. Nothing has ever haunted me more. And now, like a candle has been lit at the bottom of an abyss, I can finally search for what I've always yearned. Mines. I nod, I shake my head. Here, I don't know if this is going to be important, so go ahead and save here. I'm going to do I nod. The moment I give my answer, something about Dove changes. Like hot embers fanned in the wind, her pale eyes glow in the dim light. I feel my heart thumping in my chest. Oh, put that face away. Sorry. Her mouth stretches wide. I can see the points of her canines, and her gums are black. Dove rarely smiles, even more so with teeth. I hold back a shudder. This time, I know for sure that my heart does not race in fear. Dove looks directly into my inhuman eyes. Yeah, put that face away. What the hell is this? A malevolent grin creeps across her face. In that moment, I knew she could see her fiery eyes reflected in mine. My eyes walk across the first page, my chest blooming with excitement. A book about magic. I've never been able to read one before. They were all removed before I could get the chance. Everything you could ever want to know about magic is written in this book. It's the witch's Bible, after all. My mouth goes dry. For a moment, I imagine myself elsewhere. I'm back with my grandmother, sitting on the carpet by the fireplace and having my burning questions dismissed once again. Your birth brought you freedom, Basil. One day you will understand that. I could only smother my disappointment with a short reply. No matter how many times I asked for an explanation, she would always deflect or ignore my prodding. So I stopped asking and started searching for my own answers. I see nothing special about myself, Sam, but I could be. I slowly look up at Dove. She stares deeply into my eyes before looking back down into the open book. Then she starts reading. Why is she reading like that? Look at her face. There's much to know before one uses magic, and it all begins with death. Take a deep breath, and my eyes stand up attentively. My ears, sorry. From the moment of birth, sentient beings accumulate toxins, energy, and resources. Upon death, these bodies begin to rot and break down, returning these components to the environment. It's hard to believe, but in the state of decomposition, new life is abundant in the absence of an old one. I immediately deflate. What? My silence must have been deafening, as Dove snaps her head back up in my reaction. In spite of my ability to truly be expressive with my canine features, I must have created quite the emotional response, because Dove turns completely flustered. Deep scarlet burns her cheeks, its heat crawling up to her forehead. She awkwardly looks down and starts fidgeting with her fingers. Wait. Her brows quickly pinch together. I start to think that she might actually be embarrassed. My jaw drops slightly in disbelief. You... I watch her swallow a lump in her throat. I realize that was probably difficult to understand. I forget to breathe when Dove looks at me once again, with fingers tightly intertwined in round eyes. You're really listening? Dove looks at me in complete astonishment, and I'm at a complete loss in how to react. Dove runs a hand through her messy hair and collects herself. She returns to the book in front of her, starting from the beginning again. There is a certain type of energy that is created in the process of decay. That energy is magic itself, existing in the plane between life and death. This plane is also known as the ether. No living being can ever see it. It's an inevitable occurrence. Death is guaranteed in the circle of life. It's cruel, but necessary. Because when death blooms, new life persists. Dove tilts her head, flips through the pages of the book. Of course, I'm only summarizing the complexities. It's not as simple in practice, because magic is not something that can be contained by any laws we've observed in nature. At least, the ones we know. In fact, magic is no different than a species you're probably familiar with. Mushrooms. I cock my head in confusion and look at Dove, expecting her to elaborate on her explanation. She leans over the witch Bible, balancing on one arm, holding up her pointer finger. Let me explain. Mushrooms are the only thing in nature that do not follow a logical system. Normally, creatures with bright colors always serve as a warning sign to stay away. Through evolution, both flora and fauna have developed characteristics that allow them to survive long enough to pass down that trait. But with mushrooms, none of that applies. Bright or dull, big or clustered, you can't tell if a mushroom will kill you based on its looks alone. You can't tell if a mushroom will kill you based on looks alone. The only way to find out is to eat it. I gulp. Dove makes mushrooms sound like old gods, and they kind of are if you think about it. But back to the topic at hand. I love these little drawings. Dove flips to a new page, and I pause at the sight of scratchy doodles that make the words on the page illegible. Definitely Dove's handiwork. Magic can be unpredictable and unstable. By this logic, areas with little death hold little magic. Likewise, places with an abundance of death hold an abundance of magic. Places like cemeteries. I nod in understanding as Dove continues. It's the reason ghosts love to linger around there so much. Dove crosses her legs and rests her head in her palm. She hasn't been turning the pages of the book, as she explains everything in perfect detail. How many times has she read this book? I've been told that witches become empowered by corpses buried deep beneath their feet, and with that power comes tragic silence. Dove's expression becomes solemn, but in that silence, there's also an earnest level of respect from those who have passed away. She pauses for a moment, then starts turning the pages again. When she finds the page she wants, the corners of her lips perk up. Or a satisfactory feast. Ear twitches. However, there are two exceptions to this. In spaces void of death, magic is completely unusable. Most witches usually avoid them like the plague. When the shimmer of the magic runs through your veins as naturally as breathing, being there feels like gravity has amplified tenfold. Maybe the closest thing to feeling human for a witch. On the contrary, a space plagued with too much death becomes dangerous for everything within it. Without caution, the magic can overflow and seep through the cracks between planes, corrupting everything it touches. And this is where the witches come in. Dove turns to a news page. The spread before me makes the fur along my spine stand up. Ooh.
Lily's got a little baby. Worried about.
I am greeted with an illusion of demons holding what appear to be babies. Are they human? Or perhaps they're... Something in my brain clicks. I know this part. The concept of witchlings receiving the devil's blessing at birth to become full-fledged witches. My grandmother knows how to obtain this blessing, but refused to tell me no matter how much I asked. It's a miracle I even know this much from what little she told me. Dove pauses to stare at the illustration. I nod my nose in her direction as encouragement to continue. Every witch begins with the devil's blessing. Once they receive the blessing, they are bound to hell. Dove gets lost in thought for a moment and combs her fingers through her hair. Did you know that witches have 3 commandments? I blink. Of course, that's 3. 1. Know God before the devils. 2. Thou shalt honor the devil's gift. 3. Magic shall never be used without the devil's permission. Dove frowns as she states the last commandment. He didn't mention how witches receive the blessing. I whine in disappointment. Dove seems to completely misunderstand my reaction. Are you scared? Don't worry, demons won't be making deals with a little puppy like you. I snorted in annoyance. The relationship between demons and witches is symbolic. Oh, I'm sorry, not symbolic, it's symbiotic. Because witches can access the ether, they can utilize magic. The more magic they use, the more power is imbued to hell. The demons who reside in hell can extract that power and use it to create the chaos they love so much. I let out an involuntary shiver. Can't help the anxiety that rises from the knowledge of using magic to provide enrichment for beings that love nothing more than trouble. However, witches don't just exist for demons to live vicariously through them. They have a responsibility of keeping magic levels in balance. It's so boring to talk about, though. The most important thing in this book are these. Dove shows me a page filled with magic circles. Using magic is a little different from fairy tales. You can't just conjure something from nothing with a swish of your hand. Right-clicking! Not without a couple of steps, at least. Magic is... It's far more similar to... She taps her index finger on her chin. Oh, it's like baking! I feel my brows pinch in confusion. Magic is like... making cakes? Well, you see... Baking requires perfect measurements. Dove flips through the Witch Bible until she lands on her desired page. She then lifts the book and presents it to me. Strange symbols greet my eyes. Each one of these symbols represents elements. These are your ingredient. She turns to a new page filled with various illustrations of circles. In order to use magic, you need to gather the right elements and place them within a circle that looks just like this one. Every space within the circle is like a number. This is why magic is like baking. The ingredients and measurements must be exact. A single miscalculation could be the difference between enhancing a rose and killing it. One more thing. For every spell in this book, there is a secret ingredient. Dove slides a page between her middle and ring finger until the paper meets the webbed skin of her hand. Without even flinching, she pulls her hand across the paper. I immediately cringe away like I could feel the stinging sensation of paper slicing into her sensitive skin firsthand. Dove holds her hand up and pinches the flesh around the paper cut, pushing out beads of scarlet. She sets the Witch Bible flat on the floor again and hovers her hand over the drawings of circles. More blood runs from the cut and forms a crimson droplet that hangs from the tip of her finger. It feels like minutes go by before the droplet finally falls from her hand, staining the paper below. The sound of blood dripping onto the page echoes in my ears like a ticking clock. I focus on the way the blood splatters on impact, right in the middle of the circle, then runs down the curve of the paper until it fully soaks into the parchment. You've made your spells correctly. All you need is a little witch blood to make it transform before your very eyes. Into art. Dove curls her hand into a fist. Witchlings may not have a demon's blessing, but they are surely not human. We come from fire and brimstone, after all. Magic belongs in our veins. Just because we are not connected to the ether doesn't mean it isn't there, just waiting for our call. Dove leans over the bloody drawings with hunger in her eyes. Her hair falls like a curtain of bramble around the Witch Bible. The sight makes me think of putrid veins that have spread from an infection. One day, we won't need anyone's blessing to make what is ours. To take what is ours, she said. I tint up. She notices my stiffness and gives me a small smile. Are you intimidated by magic now? Don't worry. There's no need to go through something as advanced as creating your own spells. That's what the Witch Bible is for. I just right-clicked. It contains all the spells you could ever need. Dove trails off. It looks like she has more to say, but she hesitates to express her thoughts. I rest my head on my paws as the silence stretches. Dove's expression sours before speaking again. More, though. My head lifts. These spells aren't enough for me. She narrows her eyes at the Witch Bible and smooths the parchment with her hand before crumpling it into a fist. Blink in surprise. Witches are brave enough to walk the earth as hosts for parasitic demons in hell, and yet... Dove looks down at her open palms, her gaze lingering on her wound, blood now clotted. She starts raising her voice and I flinch in response. And yet they bind themselves to so many rules. They can use magic. They're the only ones that can use magic. All the possibilities in the palm of their hands. But what's this? Dove throws the book open, showing the words carved on the inside of the back cover. Do not use magic on people. Do not waste magic with minuscule pursuits. Always keep magic levels balanced. Never take too much. Her face contorts in frustration with every line she reads. They smother themselves. They make themselves so small. They do not pursue progress. There is only tradition in this, and tradition that. It drives me mad. Dove suddenly grabs the witch Bible and violently throws it. I jump out of the way as it bashes into a wall. A flurry of papers erupts when it slams into the desk beneath it. Dove stands, puffing out short breaths and clenching her fists as pages flutter down around her like snowfall. The sight haunts me. It's like seeing a glimpse of a dove free from the walls that contain her. Everything you want to know about magic is written in the Bible. As I watch the papers flutter to the ground, I notice something written on all of them. Alchemical composition sketched with impatient scrawl litter every page I see. The symbols and circles look nothing like what I've seen in the witch Bible. Dove mutters something to herself. I'm afraid like they are. The temperature around me drops. I almost expect my breath to cloud my face when I exhale. What is Dove trying to create? Dove drifts back to the desk. She doesn't sit back down. She just stands there instead, completely lost in thought. I look around the room, feeling awkward in the silence. Eager to not sit in it for a second longer, I stand and get ready to wander off. I turn back and give Dove one last glance before trotting away. I wander around the library, observing the piles of dusty books on the floor and the worn spines that crowd the shelves. One book in particular captures my attention. I take nimble steps closer to inspect this strange object, hugging a book on the bottom shelf. It resembles a spider with long and bony appendages that stretch around the cover. Something about it fills me with unease. I start to back away, out of nowhere. I'm thrown onto the floor, and air is knocked out of my lungs. I let out a yelp, quickly realizing that was a mistake. Something wraps tightly around me, constricting my movement and making it difficult to breathe. The more I struggle, the tighter the grip becomes. My eyes begin to sting as I catch a glance of the strange book I saw earlier. The cover is now bare. The spider-like object that had wrapped around its spine is now crushing me with its limbs. Footsteps rapidly reach my ears, and I see Dove appearing around the corner of the bookshelf. I could see the look of surprise that's on her face, a strange reaction to seeing me get crushed to death. I thought he got rid of that. She finally shows panic when I let out a pained bark. Dove rushes over and drops to her knees. I can feel her bony hands trying to dig under the spider's legs, but it digs into my flesh in the process. She pulls her hand back and bites her lip. I then feel her grabbing me again and hauling me into the air. Just hold on. I can fix this. Her confidence is betrayed by her wavering voice. Is this it for me? It's a miracle I even made it this far, at least. My breathing quickens. No, I don't want to die like this. I thrash my body in Dove's arms, fighting back against the constricting creature. I can feel my vision turning fuzzy as Dove bursts into a room I've never been in before. Fancy schmancy. She slips on something that sounds like paper, sending us both tumbling onto the floor. I let out a very weak cry while Dove lands hard on her hands and knees. The spider continues to tighten its grip. Dove wastes no time running over to a shelf to rifle through bottles and drawers for something, but she finally finds what she's looking for. She quickly reads the tag attached to it and hurries back to me. I see her uncork a bottle with a swirling purple liquid before pouring its contents. I feel a searing heat drip onto my skin as the spider screeches. I howl in agony, and some of the liquid drips onto me and Dove releases it. Gasp. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get it on you. I whimper to cope with the pain. The only relief I can feel is the loss of suffocating pressure around me. Dove moves away to retrieve a cloth and clumsily dabs at the stray purple fluids that had gotten onto my fur, making them sting even more. She leaves my sight again. I look to my side and see the spider-looking object curled into itself and unmoving. Dove stops for a moment, stumbling in the process. It gives it her attention as well. Not sure how I expected her to feel over the aggressive little creature that almost killed me, but the face she makes catches me off guard. It looks like she's in mourning. Dove nudges the spider with her foot. I hold my breath in fear that it will spring back to life and make a second attempt at my life. What a shame. My head perks up. That was my first successful spell. My blood runs cold. What does she mean? You've seen quite a few of my spells now. Dove looks down at her hands and starts counting fingers. The rose bush, the viper cage, the book spine. The sound of something tapping against glass makes me snap my head around. Up on a shelf, I spot what seems to be the source of the noise. Crimson-soaked moths thrash around in a jar. Dove also looks up at them. Those are mine as well. Cute, aren't they? I gave them the raw meat you didn't want to eat, so they're probably hungry again. She gives me a small smile and nausea ripples through me. These things are a success to her? She created these horrific creatures. It shouldn't even be possible. Dove can't use magic. Can she? No, I doubt it. I feel my mind racing. If she was not the one who created them, then who did? I hear Dove fuss around the room once again, and I take in my surroundings. It appears to be some kind of study or lab. Shelves and cabinets line the walls, filled with jars and bottles. I'm surprised it didn't actually show us what the spider and everything looked like. I thought we'd at least get like a glimpse of it, because that seems intense. In fact, when it like popped up, or when he said that there was a spider on the thing, I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if like you had like a spider that could hop off of that and blah blah blah. And sure enough, he gets attacked. Almost gets mauled by it. They should at least show us the moths as well. It'd be amazing looking. Sorry, shelves and cabinets line the walls, filled with jars and bottles. I right-clicked. The air is thick with the strong smell of herbs, fresh and stale all at once. It's almost overwhelming. When I look to the very back of the dark room, I let out a yelp. Light pours in from a small window and disturbingly outlines an arrangement of skulls around a dark frame. It looks like a mirror, but the surface of the glass is dull. It doesn't reflect anything very well. The eye sockets of the animal skulls are shrouded in shadow, but they give me the creeping sensation of being observed. A familiar feeling I brushed off with a full body shake. It's a witch's shrine. Dove's voice frightens me out of my thoughts. She kneels beside me, looking conflicted. In her hands is a small jar. With a twist of her wrist, she unscrews the lid, revealing a pale green paste inside. This will help your burns. I cower away from her touch as she tries to reach for me. I crash into something hard as I hide underneath the nearest table. Dove retracts her hand and presses it into her lap. I stare at her with wide eyes and crouch close to the ground, sheltered by the shadows. She opens her mouth to say something, but her words get stuck in her throat. Her eyes catch on something behind me. She squints briefly before widening her eyes with recognition. She shoots forward. I yelp and scatter away to avoid her. While my body is pressed against the wall, I look to see if Dove has followed me. I get her in my sight, but her focus isn't on me at all. In fact, the mysterious thing under the table has her completely distracted. It scrapes against the floor as she drags it out. A box. It's beautiful. Rose and thorn motifs decorate the smooth, dark wood. Dove regards it open mouth, then snaps the chest open so abruptly that it tips back slightly. She slowly pulls something out of the box. I take a small step closer to see it more clearly. In her hand is a small, bloody pouch. I read a single word on the label attached to it. Babble. I feel a chill crawl up my spine. What is that? I swallow heavily as I begin to imagine the worst. Couldn't be. I pad up to the box and shrink back when I see the contents that lay in its red velvet lining. Bile rises in my throat at the sight of human remains. My eyes dart between the objects in the box. Their dark hair tied together with a ribbon, a small bone, and another bloody pouch, all with paper tags attached to them. I don't need to read the rest of the labels to know what's written on Names. The names of all the ghosts that haunt this home. Except for one. Dove still holds Babel's pouch in her hand. A blank expression paints her face, but with closer inspection, I can see a faint tremble in her hands. She quickly tosses the pouch back into the chest and slams it to a close. She slides it back under the table, then stands up and makes her way out of the study. I stand there frozen, briefly forgetting how to move my feet. Eventually, I trail out behind her. Reluctantly so, because I don't know what else there is to do. I step out into the hall. Dove's nowhere to be seen. I look around, searching for a sign of where she might have gone. Everywhere I look offers no hint. I whine, then I start navigating through the confusing hallways as best I can from memory. Eventually, I find Dove's bedroom. Dove is not here. I find myself feeling relieved and troubled. I walk over to the spot I slept the night before, drop down, and listen to the noises of the house until I fall asleep. It's dark when I wake up again. I look around. I don't see nor hear a sign of Dove. A knot in my stomach forces me to get up. Being unaware of Dove's whereabouts fills me with anxiety. Being near her makes me feel like the horrors are with me instead of against me. I return to the labyrinth of hallways and look around, keeping all my senses alert. I start to reconsider my decision to walk around the mansion at night again, especially alone. Evening seems to be the time when she likes to walk around. As if I had spoken her into existence, a wet drag comes from behind me, freezing my tracks. There's a familiar tapping sound nearby. I see the hidden door leading to the roof next to me. I don't bother looking behind me and head straight for the door. Ah, there it is. I go straight up the stairs into the roof. Oh, we just straight up booked it, because this is where we saw that guy last time, right? He was like, "Ah, there you are." Unlike the last time I was here, a clear night sky spans high above me. Stars dot the dark, and for a moment, I forget about all the things I was scared of. Every time I see the night sky, I feel so small under its grandeur. Dove spoke about magic earlier. I was frightened by how much it revolved around death. Before learning about it, I had always thought magic felt like this, like it was art that could capture the spark of small joys. I rebelliously steal more time to admire the stars, and breathe in deeply, slowly. For even just a second, I want to remember how to sit still and get lost in everything I'm feeling. I want to gulp down the humid summer air, feel the gentle night breeze brushing against my fur, smell the sap from the trees, listen to the crickets ringing in my ear, memorize the placement of every star I can see. Every blissful and uncomfortable sensation. Let it all sink into me. Ray clicked. They all remind me that I'm still alive, and I hold on to that so tightly, because I'm so afraid of what I'll become if I can no longer see goodness when it's in front of me. The longer I stare at the sky, however, I squint. The stars seem so close. Something pulls me back to reality. I hear a voice. I turn my head and see a faint light. It's coming from the greenhouse. Foul little things, don't you think, Babel? These ugly things keep consuming everything like a vengeful spirit. I never see what's so interesting about something so boring like weeds. Flowers are pretty, but their beauty is so fleeting. I tried to make these ones last longer, but they still end up dying when they're cut from their bush. I remember the greenhouse quietly. I entered the greenhouse quietly, sorry. Dove stands by the giant rose bushes with a lantern at her feet. Meanwhile, Babel busies itself nearby with a watering can. Is this where she's been all day? Dove hasn't noticed me yet. She takes a peek at Babel and makes a downcast face before looking back at her roses. Babel, do you remember when you let me plant seeds to grow tomatoes? Dove prods at a rose bulb and pulls her hand back before it can sink its teeth into its flesh. No matter what I did, or how much you've helped me, I couldn't even get it to bud. Babel gives no response. It quietly sets its watering can down and starts meticulously weeding the flower beds. We could all use a Babel. You still put so much effort to take care of these silly plants. I don't understand why. Spent so many hours in here just watching you, yet I can't even name anything. I told you to let everything die. Did you finally rest? Do you even know how to do anything else anymore? Dove moves to face Babel. You should have just left the stupid mushrooms alone. Then you wouldn't be stuck in this cursed state. Oh, she said left his mushrooms alone. You should have left his mushrooms alone. Then you wouldn't be stuck in this cursed state. What does that mean? Babel straightens up, then holds out a bundle of flowers in front of Dove. Now that I have a chance to look, I notice that there's actually a variety of flowers in this greenhouse. Roses, daffodils, lilacs. Something that looks like lilacs but with different shaped petals. It definitely isn't a lilac, but it blooms to sprout in an interesting way. Perhaps I could find out what it is later. My grandmother didn't like teaching me about magic, but she was always willing to entertain my botanical curiosities. The ones Babel offers Dove are bleeding hearts, scientifically known as Dicentra spectabilis. Ooh, title drop. Dicentra spectabilis. Okay. I've always been fascinated by them because of their unique shape. Their arching stems and their hanging blooms that are shaped just like hearts. My grandmother explained one of the things they symbolized: unconditional love. The meaning filled me with awe. I heard it for the first time. I immediately wanted to learn more about it, so I did my own research on it and read through one of her books on the language of flowers. I learned bleeding hearts also represented something else: heartbreak. Dove stands so still that I think she's somehow turned into a statue. On the surface, Dove is calm and collected. Behind her gentle visage lies a merciless beast harboring in the trenches of her emotions. Dove shoots her hand out to smack the flowers out of Babel's tendrils' grips, letting them fall at her feet. Babel bends down and delicately picks up each stem again. Dove's cheeks grow splotchy, red. She holds her dress in tight fists. Can't you just be here with me? I hear her voice crack. Dove pinches her eyes closed. Or have you already been gone for a long time? I can't watch this any longer. The dead are never meant to stay longer than they're supposed to, despite some of their efforts in doing so, and despite the efforts of those that are not ready for them to depart. People never realize until they've lost someone forever. The dead will immortalize themselves in your thoughts, if you want them to or not. The emptiness they leave behind tends to grow into a mold you can never ignore. Body, soul, those can be gone. Memories, those cannot be killed. I twist around and take off, knowing what needs to be done. I hear Dove make a small noise behind me. My retreat must have tipped her off to my presence. No, don't! Why she look like that? Her distressed scream almost makes me stop dead in my tracks, but I carry onward. Breaking hearts, bro. I want to see this spider. I don't even like spiders, I just want to see it. I race into the study and skid to a halt in front of the box under the table. I hear the thud of footsteps running after me. Using my paws, I claw and shove at the chest until it falls over and the lid pops open, spilling the contents out. I quickly scan through the pieces of paper attached to the remains. When I spot Babel's pouch, I grab it with my mouth and turn to sprint for the door. I stand there out of breath, clutching onto the door frame. She glares at me and walks forward. Bad dog. Drop it. I clench my jaw tighter and stand my ground. You have to let them be free. I try to plead with her with my eyes. Dove takes a step forward, and I take a step back. She holds her hand out toward me. Give it back. I need it. Bite her hand. I'm biting her hand. Dove lets out a blood-curdling scream when I tear my teeth into her arm. Red blossoms through... Oh, I'm sorry, hold on. Damn, we really just went for her like that? That's crazy. There was a timer too, okay? Like, I know she helped us out, but I want to see. I want the drama, okay? Red blossoms through the sleeve of her white gown and blood drips down her arm. She pulls back, clutching the wound. My ears droop at the sight of the dark drips that cascade down her colorless cheeks. Dove's face darkens and my jaw tightens. She furiously wipes the tears from her face and turns away from me. I stare at Dove's hand, but something behind her catches my eye instantly. Dove twists her head around. We both see Babel lumbering through the hall holding an arrangement of flowers. I could see her bleeding arm getting shoved. Oh, I'm sorry, get shoved to the back of her mind as it falls limp at her side. She starts chasing after the ghost, on her heels behind her. Alright, okay. Basil's he's taking some bold moves. I didn't think he would just go hard like that, immediately. Two of us step out into the hallway and trail after Babel. Babel takes its time moving around the manor. Stops at every empty vase on the table, places a fresh flower in each one, slipping into rooms and adding pops of color to spaces devoid of it. Dub and I observe it without saying a word. With every flowery addition, Babel brings brightness to even the darkest corners. When it finishes its rounds, it returns to the rooftop. Babel kneels before a cluster of violets and toggles side to side until it's pulled free from the soil. It then stands up and moves to a bench, wrapping one of its tendrils around a small knife in the process. It makes a small cut to the stem, then gently places it in a jar of water. I look up at Dove, who watches with lowered brows and narrowed eyes. I lift the paw and brush it against her skirt. She looks down at me from the corner of her eye. Take a deep breath. I face her, tip my nose up with Babel's belongings still in my mouth. Dove lowers her hand and I drop the pouch into it. I then look back up at her. Your friend worked so hard to bring you peace. Don't you want to show it your appreciation? Dove's breath hitches and her lip trembles. She stands up straight, dragging her feet toward a lantern she had placed near the rose bush. Follow Dove from behind. She slowly kneels before the fluttering flame encased in the glass. Calmly opens the lantern door and silently watches the flame with Babel's pouch in her lap. I can sense her mind racing behind her eyes, desperately trying to dig her nails into any excuse that will delay her next move. Her throat bobs. Then she turns her head to look back at Babel. It hovers around jars of other propagating plants, none the wiser to what she's about to do. Dove faces the lantern again and squeezes her eyes closed. She opens them again. Her face is collected. She carefully brings the pouch to the fire and holds the edge in it until it catches. The brightness of the flame reflects in her pale eyes. She places the burning pouch on the tiled floor. We both watch the silk bag organically burn away, revealing the teeth inside it. They burn slowly, so slowly that I wonder if they'll even be able to burn. Elf does not turn away to look back at Babel. Or even once, I'm sorry. But finally, all that's left are ashes and tiny shards. My eyes widen as Dove scoops up the remains in her hands. She shows no sign of pain as the cinders singe her palms. She transfers it all to one hand and takes a deep and shaky breath before crumpling the remains. Out of nowhere, I hear a faint sound of wind chimes. I look around wondering where the sound had come from. Perhaps I had just imagined it. Dove pours the ashes onto the floor. I look behind her. Babel is gone. But let him sleep. The next few days after Babel's disappearance pass by uneventfully. But the third day, everything changes. I lay near Dove's feet in the library. I still have yet to find something that will help me leave this place. Maybe the only way to escape is to become a ghost myself. But I have a feeling my freedom wouldn't be guaranteed that way either. Dove sits at her desk, staring at notes in a daze. Her pencil has been completely still for a while now. My heart stops. Dove's head snaps up. That sounded exactly like the front door from the day I came in. There's a door. There's a way out. And my arm is fully healed. I bolt up and shudder with anticipation. My tail wags excitedly. I grab Dove's skirt with my teeth, wanting to waste no time getting to the door. Then I right-click. She crouches down and grabs my snout with her hand. You have to hide. I pull back and look at her confused. Why would I hide? This might be my only chance to go home. But when I see the panic in Dove's eyes, I start to wonder why the door has returned. My gaze slowly shifts to the entrance of the library. I listen and hide. The floorboards outside the library creak. Heavy footsteps echo, getting louder and louder. I stare at the door, paralyzed. What are you doing? Move! Dove shoves me with her hands and I spring into action. Should I hide? The footsteps stop right outside the door. I hide behind the bookshelf. I hurry behind a bookshelf and lower myself to the floor as flat as I can. The door creaks open and someone walks in. I try to control my rapid breathing out of fear that it would betray my concealed position. I peek through the gaps. I see onto me.
Oh, Tim.
A tall gentleman enters the library, still in his outwear, with a cane tucked under his arm. I watch as he approaches Dove. I see her casually step in front of the notes she has scattered on the desk. The man takes off his top hat and holds it against his hip. I feel like my heart jumps out of my chest when I see his eyes. Who's distracted? Dove resembles him a lot. They both have pale skin and inky black hair that spikes out like a lion's mane. What sets them apart, though, are their eyes. Dove's eyes are the blue of glaciers. His eyes. It's said that animals that are brightly colored, because of their toxicity, are mostly active at night. That seems fitting for this man because his eyes are the scarlet of a poisonous frog. A warning outlined by the dark markings that cover the hollow of his eyes. I've seen markings like that before. Every witch has them. He speaks. I almost yelp in surprise. Where is Apatia? My nails curl. His voice. It was the one I heard when I first arrived here. But importantly, Apatia. Who's that? Is there still someone I have yet to meet in this house of curiosities? It unsettles me to think so. Around, I'm sure. My brow draws together. No, hello? The man nods and turns to leave just as quickly as he came. Then he stops for a brief moment. He reaches into his coat and produces a small lantern with a glowing green flame. Here's everything that was on your list. He places the lantern on Dove's desk with a light tap. His eyes briefly catch on Dove's notes and I see her go stiff. You've been busy. It's nothing. Of course it is. The man steps away and makes his way to the door again. You should know better by now. He gives Dove one last glance. Why don't you find something better to do instead of wasting your time? Dove's eyes tweak, but her overall expression remains blank. I stare in disbelief as he leaves without a word. Once he's gone, Dove stands rooted to her spot. Her face is blank and her eyes are unfocused. My ears twitch and follow the red noises. Footsteps fade to another section of the mansion. I can hear the sound of a door clicking to a close. It finally moves again and picks up the handle of the lantern. She looks down at me. I'm sorry. She looks down at me right as I meekly come out of my hiding spot. Let's go. Quietly. We get to the kitchen. Dove places the small lantern on the table. Then she opens the glass and blows out the flame. Smoke begins to fill the room. Clouds the kitchen so quickly that I don't even have time to hold my breath. I expect a dry burn in my lungs, but instead, the smell of petrichor tickles my nose. When the smoke clears, boxes, bags, and crates have appeared out of nowhere, all over the table and floor. My eyes widen in awe, and my tail starts wagging excitedly. I start sniffing at boxes and peeking into bags, while Dove starts digging through the crates. I sit and watch as she pulls out a shiny, new incandescent bulbs and sets them down on the kitchen table. She opens up everything before she starts sorting them. Out of one box, she pulls out a new dress and polished shoes. They're both pretty and frilly, but Dove gives them a sour look and shoves them back in the box before moving on to the next thing. The witch had mentioned getting everything on a list, which I assume was prepared by Dove. Was a new fashion not in her style, or were they things she didn't ask for? I haven't seen Dove wear anything besides her sleepwear. She probably doesn't see the point in getting dressed, considering all her activities are of the enclosed variety. In another box, she lights up at the sight of new books. She fans the pages and takes a deep inhale. Her Face lights up with glee as she basks in the new book smell. She gathers all of the food and sorts them into separate piles. One pile is for cold cellar, the other for the pantry. She pulls something out of a paper bag and her mouth stretches into a big smile. She then looks down at me as I tilt my head to question. I'll treat you to something tasty today. Dove flashes a quick glance in the hallway, then crouches down. Follow me. Be light on your paws. Dove starts down the hallway, balancing on the balls of her feet with practiced ease. I feel uneasy about this new need to sneak around the house. Been here long enough to the point where I'm almost used to the monsters that live here. But now I'm learning that these monsters have something to be wary of. We enter the greenhouse. Dove stops at the entrance. I look back at her in confusion. Her eyes stare blankly. I can see her pupils move around the room in search of something. Her behavior sets me on edge. I turn around to see if there's someone, or something, here in the greenhouse beside us. No, nothing. Glance back at Dove. A line forms between her brows before she continues making her way in. Making a babble, dog. She passes by me and silently heads for the violets. Once they're right in front of her, she bends down, reaching for them. Bark in surprise when she starts ripping them out. It's probably the last time. Eat this. I'll get this. Why did I read that as eat? I swear my eyes don't work sometimes. We should appreciate Babel's hard work, right? My ears go flat. I stare at the uprooted flowers that had obviously been raised with so much care. Everything here is most likely going to rot away. Dove doesn't seem very interested in plants. Can't really picture her spending every day here pulling out weeds, knowing how much water every plant needs, or even knowing what fertilizer is. I think she would much rather draw the same statue 1,000 times. Feels like such a shame. Once Dove has picked out all the violets, leaving the soil bare, she stands and gets ready to head back. I try to memorize the sight of the vibrant garden as much as I can before I force to catch up with them. Dove pauses awkwardly again when we enter the hallway. I freeze up. This time, I really think there's something dangerous up ahead. I cautiously peer around Dove's legs. Once again, there's nothing. I snap my head up at Dove. Is she messing with me? Dove continues moving like nothing happened, and I slowly trail behind her. We continue walking. We pass by a small window. I notice a familiar glass holding a small bundle of roses. The petals already dried up and flaking. My mouth goes dry. We arrive back in the kitchen. Dove starts gathering ingredients and ripping the violet petals from their stems. Meanwhile, a pot of water heating over a fire and the hearth starts to bubble. Steam starts to rise from the pot. Dove places the petals in a stoneware pot and adds the boiling water. She places a cover over the pot to let the petals steep, then starts to organize and put away all new supplies. I watch curiously from the floor. I've never eaten flowers before. Dove completes every step with practiced precision. By the time she's finished cleaning up, the violets are ready to be infused with other ingredients. Dove keeps herself occupied by combining everything. Eventually, she pours the finished products into glass jars. Dove seals 4 jars of violet jelly to be stored away, leaving the other jar that's only partially filled. I lick my lips and admire the pretty color of the violets I made. She grabs the spoon and pops it in the jar. Taking it with her, she makes her way to a small package wrapped in twine sitting near the window. We're done here now. Dove sets the jar of violet jelly down on the window seat, and unravels a package she had brought. A new quilt unfolds in her hands. She spreads it out on the floor near my water. She settles into the window seat, and I wait a moment before I step onto the blanket. I take a second to savor the softness under my paws before laying down comfortably. Dove scoops up some of the violet jelly and holds a spoon in front of my face. Here, I'll give you the first bite. I give the jelly a sniff, then test it with a small lick. It's such a sweet and floral taste. I lick up the rest greedily. Dove takes a spoon back and stares at the jar of purple jelly. As the sky fades to an all-consuming darkness, I gaze at the sheet of stars one last time before I curl into a ball. I can hear the soft crackles coming from the candle that Dove lit earlier. It soothes me. Soon enough, my eyelids start to feel heavy. I rest my head on my paws and curl my tail around me. I hear Dove's spoon scrape into the glass jar. Then the sound of someone sniffling.